All right, so let's start. Great. So we will cover today 3 basic practices. I think I will spend maybe 2 minutes for presentation, and the rest of the time, of the remaining time, we can have a conversation. If you have questions or comments, feel free to share them. We can discuss specific cases if you want, or I can show you maybe some examples. Why not? All right, so first we will discuss early identification of SPEAR-PHISHING attacks. Then we will cover the safe use of public Wi-Fi networks. And last but not least, information backup practices. Okay. All right, so here we go. So we will go now over the early identification of SPEAR-PHISHING attacks. Before we continue, let me give you a brief definition of what a phishing attack is. Most of you guys already know this, but this is just a quick recap. So a phishing attack is a fraudulent message to try to make a target reveal sensitive information such as your full name, your physical address, identification numbers, credentials. This means usernames or passwords, bank information, etc. Phishing attacks are carried over email, but also social networks, LinkedIn, instant messages, and sometimes a combination of other regular means such as phone calls and social engineering tactics, etc. So keep in mind, this is not only an email on your mailbox. This can also be a message on WhatsApp or on your Facebook profile or on Twitter, etc. And I have seen now phishing attacks on LinkedIn. So that's, I think, a new battleground. I have actually received suspicious messages myself on LinkedIn. So that's why I'm telling you guys this. So, all right. The main difference between a phishing attack and a spear-phishing attack is basically that the phishing attack is just a generic fraudulent message. It is not targeted specifically to one single person. It's just like a big fish net, trying to catch as much fish as possible. So there's no previous investigation on a specific subject. These emails are just massively sent to a bunch of email addresses, and they just try to get money off the attack. They try to get maybe your email and password to try to log in into your bank account or into your PayPal account or etc. Or maybe they can just try to make you visit some websites so you can watch advertisements, etc. So, I mean, we don't really worry about these kind of messages too much because the detection algorithms on the email clients are actually pretty smart nowadays. So most of these emails are automatically stopped before reaching your mailbox, or at least you get a warning saying, hey, this message looks fraudulent, don't open any links. And usually your email client will not even download images or let you click on any links. So we're not really so worried about this kind of attacks. Of course, you still have to be vigilant, but this is not what we are concerned about. But we are actually concerned about the spear-phishing attacks. Why? Because these are targeted attacks against specific person or organization. I have seen these numerous times with journalists. They are contacted and they are told that they are gonna get funds, for instance, or they are contacted asking to have money transferred to another employee of the NGO, nonprofit, or a member of the media staff. Of course, this is fraud. Some other attacks use social engineering tactics to obtain information about the employees or about schedules or meetings, or they seek to implant hacking software to get persistent access to computers and networks in the organization. And some other attacks are actually, all of these attacks are sent after doing specific research on the victim. So the message looks legit. So for instance, attackers investigate the names of staff working at certain organization, their positions. They try to look for their email addresses, for their phone numbers. They try to mimic the way they write, the way they communicate, the way they open and close emails, so they can mimic the way this person they want to impersonate writes or communicates, to easily make the victim fall into their scam. And some actually the dangerous aspect, the most dangerous aspect of spear-phishing attacks is that sometimes they come from the real account. Let's say that a teammate or maybe the company director or the CEO gets his or her account hacked, and then attackers start emailing assistants or other employees asking for specific files of information, and that's actually like hard to detect because the email is actually coming from the real address. Okay, or sometimes the address looks very similar to the real one. Maybe they change the letter I for a 1 or the little L for a 1, or like sometimes they substitute characters to make you believe that the email address is real. So you have to watch out for that. Now, these are, in my opinion, the basic 3 practices that you have to follow if you receive a suspicious message from an unknown sender. Actually, I will talk about known senders in the next slide, but for unknown senders, first of all, do not download images, open any attachments, or click on any links. This is basic when it comes to fighting phishing attacks. If you download the images on the emails, you are actually revealing your IP address, and at the same time you are revealing your location, your proximate location. So make sure not to download any files or open any attachments or click on any links. You can search for the sender name, email address, phone number, and website, also the photograph on Google. Let's say if you receive an email from someone pretending to be employee or worker at an NGO or at another media organization, just Google the name, Google the position, try to look for the LinkedIn profile, try to look for social media profiles, see if the information matches, try to look for the photograph, if any, of the sender. You can do a reverse image search on Google or on tinyeye.com to see if that picture actually corresponds to a real person, or if the picture is actually taken from some other profile of an innocent person, maybe. If you receive a suspicious email from someone you know, again, do not download images, open any attachments, or clicking the links, but also you can contact the sender in person. Just give them a call, use a phone, give them a call, or contact them using instant messaging. This is relevant when you are being requested to transfer money or to give out files or passwords. Don't do that right away, and especially if a sense of urgency is being communicated. Like, do not trade security for urgency. Just double check. It's better to verify to be sure that you are actually making the right call. So contact the other person. And also you can copy and paste the links in the email body to the address bar on your browser for inspection. And this is important because sometimes, like, you get emails and the links are saying, for instance, let's say apple.com/account recovery. That's what the link says on text. But if you point your mouse over the link, it doesn't take you to that website. Even though the text is just right there, the link doesn't correspond to the link text, to the text on the link. So if you right click, copy the link and paste it, you can actually verify if the address is the real one. And you can also verify the addresses on an online address scanner. I'll show you the screen in the next slides. And as far as attachments, if you have to, I mean, if you download Office files, say Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, keep the protected view mode on for files that you don't really trust, because Office files have what we call macros, which are basically scripts that can be used to download a virus on your computer, and that virus can then spy on what you're typing or can infect other computers in your network. So just make sure to avoid to enable protected view for any Office files you download. And if you open PDF files, make sure your reader has JavaScript off. This is because JavaScript can be used to execute commands on your computer, and PDF readers just execute the codes, especially if the PDF file has some fields to complete. You know, some PDF files have some lines you can complete, or spaces for you to put your signature. Those files specifically are basically working with JavaScript. So make sure to turn the JavaScript off, the feature off in your reader if you don't trust the file. There's a question here. Okay. All right. And okay, this is the malware scanner I told you about. This is free, and I like it a lot because it scans any files or addresses against databases of a bunch of antivirus engines. So the website looks like this. You can upload a file that you have previously downloaded on your computer. You pick the file, you submit it, the file is uploaded to the VirusTotal server, and then the VirusTotal server checks this file with around maybe 20 or more antivirus engines, and it'll give you the detection results for each and every engine. So this will give you a clear diagnostic of any specific file. This can also be used to scan web addresses against known online scams. So this is very, very useful. The address is right here. I will actually paste all the links seen on the presentation. I'll drop them in the chat. And now let's go over the second topic. Again, if you have any questions so far, make sure to use the Q&A button, please. All right, so now we will talk about safe use of public Wi-Fi networks. Some of you guys actually posed questions about this during the last webinar about like asking if the use of public Wi-Fi networks is secure or not. So we will discuss that right now. I mean, you can still use public Wi-Fi hotspots, but just be cautious. Like, public Wi-Fi networks are insecure by design. You don't know who controls the network. You don't know who has access to the device addresses of each device connecting to the network. You also don't know if the owner of the network is monitoring the websites you visit. So you can still use them, but just make sure to use a VPN at least. Of course, only connect to public Wi-Fi spots you recognize. Don't just connect to any open network just because you need internet access. be vigilant, and also make sure that the Wi-Fi hotspot belongs to the place you are in. Let's say if you are at a coffee shop and you see two networks with similar names, just ask the employees which network is the real one, because an attacker might mount a fake Wi-Fi network and make it public. So the attacker can start to catch and snip onto your internet traffic. So make sure that the Wi-Fi network belongs to the place you are in. Super important. Also disable auto connect for your cell phone and computer. The reasoning behind this is if you enable auto connect, every time you're near that specific network, your device will auto connect, and this is gonna leave a trace that you were there. And of course, we don't want that. So we don't want to be physically traced. So if you disable auto connect, your device won't connect. So it won't tell the owner of the network that you're near the Wi-Fi hotspot. Remember that Wi-Fi networks have a limited range. So if you are connected to the Wi-Fi network, chances are you are less than 100 meters away. So disable auto connect. The other tip here is if a sign-in is required, just try to avoid using your Gmail or Facebook account to sign up to the portal, unless you really trust the network. The reasoning behind this is if you don't know who owns the network, why would you give out your Facebook account? Your Facebook username. It doesn't make sense. You are by giving out your Facebook profile, you might be revealing other information of anomaly, maybe your contacts or your family photos, etc., or the places you visit, etc. So try not to link your account unless you really trust the network. And then we have here two links of VPN services. A VPN is just basically as a program you use to encrypt your traffic so others cannot see which websites you're visiting. The first program here is called Mulvat. It's not free, but it's pretty cheap. It's pretty affordable. I like it a lot. It gives you access to a bunch of VPN servers worldwide. And the other link for NordVPN, this is actually free. It gives you the option to connect to 3 VPN servers. So that's great. Also make sure that VPN usage is legal in your country. It's not on every territory, so just make sure you are not breaking the law by using VPN. But that's about it. If you are gonna rely on a public Wi-Fi network, just follow these tips right here. Only connect to Wi-Fi spots you recognize. Make sure the Wi-Fi hotspot belongs to the place you're in. Disable auto connect. Try not to link your Facebook or Gmail account, and use VPN. If you follow these 5 tips, you are pretty much on the safe side. Okay, I'm sorry if I'm going too fast, but I do want to leave some time for any comments or questions you guys have, just to keep the conversation flowing. All right. Also for Windows laptops, make sure the location is set to public. This will actually prevent others to scan your computer for public folders. If you set the network location to a known or recognized address, maybe to your home, you are allowing others to scan shared folders in your computer. So you don't want that. So the first time that you connect to a new network, Windows will ask you what's the network location. Just make sure to select public, so you won't be sharing any folders on your computer. Keep in mind that the location and your network traffic may be traced if you are on a public Wi-Fi network. And of course, always use HTTPS websites, and make sure you have your antivirus and firewall updated and turned on. I think these are basic practices that you can enforce on your computer. to make the use of public Wi-Fi networks safer. Okay, and then we will go over to the third topic, which is backup practices. I know that most of you have your important files backed up somewhere. I'm not sure what is exactly what you guys are using to back up your files, but I can tell you this: make sure to keep at least 2 copies in 2 separate locations. I will actually tell you a story. Once I worked for a company in the energy sector, okay, and the unthinkable happened. There was a fire at the building. So we, of course, we had to turn all the IT infrastructure off, because of course we didn't want to have any risk of fires in our equipment. But the thing is, it was the month, it was the end of the month, so there were a bunch of reports that have to be closed. So we didn't, well, I mean, this company didn't keep any backup of their information somewhere, physically somewhere else. So they had no access to the information because we had to turn everything off. In other example that happened during my years working in the private sector, once there was a flood in the server room. So the company lost access to all of the servers because they got wet. And of course, they didn't have any backup anywhere else. So the company was without email service for like 3 months. That was super painful. The company lost, I think, millions of dollars. Of course, let's just try to translate this into the journalist experience. You don't really have to keep a backup of your data in at least two sites, because I have seen situations where someone breaks into the offices of a media organization, or even to houses of journalists and human rights defenders, and they take away laptops and hard drives. So if you are keeping 2 copies of important files on your computer and on an external hard drive, and you keep both devices on the same place, if someone breaks in, they will take both. So you have to have at least 2 copies in 2 different locations. The best solution is, of course, just use the cloud. Of course, you should use the cloud responsibly with a secure password and end-to-end encryption. But if you have a backup in the cloud and locally you keep 1 or 2 separate copies, I think you're on the safe side. And also, if you use external hard drives to keep your files as a backup, just disconnect the external hard drive from your computer, and if possible, just lock the external drive in a drawer or in a safe, and just turn it on just if you need it. Like, just don't keep the external disk plugged in and connected to the power supply all the time. Of course, do not connect the external disk to the internet unless you really, really need it. So, tips. And also, please consider to use end-to-end encryption solutions. Of course, you can still use the drive space that Google and Microsoft provide, but just keep in mind it's not end-to-end encrypted. Your information might be accessible to the provider if they get a court order. So you might really want to turn somewhere else for sensitive files. You can use the Proton drive. It's actually free. It's a product that is not yet fully ready for mainstream consumption, but it is in an open beta program. So if you sign up for a Proton Mail email address, you will have access to the beta version of Proton Drive, and it's end-to-end encrypted. Proton doesn't know which files you have there. They have no way to open the files. They have no way to give out the files to any authority. So it's pretty great. It's free, so why not? There's another solution that it's more like oriented to small companies or small organizations. It's a subscription-based service. It's called Treasury. It's an online storage and backup solution with end-to-end encryption. This will be useful if you run a media organization. You can actually use this kind of service. It's actually also suitable for teams that have some collaboration tools. You can set up folder permissions, etc. So if you need a solution to have your files backed up and saved, you can look for this program right here. And the last option, it's kind of a more complicated solution because it involves installing certain software on your computer. It has more than one component, but I like it a lot because this last solution, the whole LAFS, this program actually like it separates the files you want to back up. It divides each file into small pieces, and then the pieces are sent to several servers, and all of them have end-to-end encryption, so nobody has the whole file. Like your file is distributed among a lot of servers, so it's kind of a decentralized solution. Like your file is just everywhere, and if someone receives a court order to give out your files, they can't because they only have a small portion, just a fraction of the file. That's super interesting. This is also helpful if a government wants to ban certain service. They cannot ban this one because it's across all the internet. So I like this one a lot. If you are really into super strong IT security, use the last option. Super great. You can also, of course, encrypt the files yourself before uploading them to a mainstream cloud provider. You can use these tools. GPG for Windows, it's free, and also GPG tools for Mac OS. We will actually cover these two tools in an upcoming webinar. So make sure you also attend the next webinars we have. This conversation will get super interesting, and I will actually show you my screen and tell you how to do it. And also, do not depend on a single device for backups. Don't rely on just one single hard drive. They will fail sometimes. Hard drives have a limited lifespan, especially if they are mechanical hard drives, you know, with spinning disk. They will only live for certain amount of years. Also, flash drives are not forever. They are also limited to a certain number of reads and writes. So these devices are not eternal. So just don't rely on a single device and think that you will only need to be purchasing one equipment for life. You do have to renew hard drives from time to time, maybe not every year, of course, but if it had been more than 5 years or 4, just consider getting another hard drive just in case, or just keep a copy on the cloud. And please do not use USB thumb drives or DVDs. USB thumb drives can fail. You can drop them, or you can sit on them, or kids can grab your USB thumb drives, play around, break them, etc. They can be damaged by water, fire. You can also lose USB thumb drives. I know it's tempting because USB thumb drives have a huge capacity. Now you have USB thumb drives with maybe half a terabyte. You can actually put all your files there, but even in just a small device, you can easily lose or damage. So watch out. Also, I don't recommend you to use DVDs. They can get scratched. They can be damaged by water, by humidity. So just use the cloud. Of course, last but not least, make sure to have a strong password to secure your online cloud account. And of course, multi-factor authentication with random codes, or just use your fingerprint or face unlock. And now I think we still have around 17 minutes. So if you guys want to share an experience, or if you like us to share some examples of phishing emails, we are all ears. The Q&A section is of course open. I have a question here. A participant asks, what happens if you keep an external hard drive plugged into the computer if you're not using it at the moment? Well, the thing is, if a hacker gains control over your computer and the external hard drive is plugged in, they can be reading, opening, and downloading files from your external hard drive. So that's why I don't recommend you guys have the hard drive plugged in to your computer at all times, especially if you're not using it, because someone can just access your hard drive remotely and steal your files. The second reason why I don't recommend you guys to have the external drive plugged in, I'm sure you guys have heard about ransomware attacks. These are attacks that encrypt the files on your computer. So let's say you download a virus, or your computer gets infected over the network, and then all your files on your computer are start to get encrypted. If you have the external hard drive connected to your computer, the damage will be extended to your hard drive. So your files will actually remain unreadable unless you pay the ransom. And you don't want that. So if you're not using your external hard drive, just keep it unplugged and turned off. That's the best practice. And another participant is asking, are emails already end-to-end encrypted? If not, how can we do that? And another question here from the same participant, what is the specific indications that tell us that email is a phishing attack? Okay, so first question, are the emails already end-to-end encrypted? It depends. If you use a provider offering end-to-end encryption, such as Fraudulent, Tutanota, then yes, your emails are end-to-end encrypted. But if you're using a regular Gmail account, an Outlook account, a Yahoo account, those services are not end-to-end encrypted. So your emails are not traveling in an encrypted state when they go out of your computer and reach the email network. They are sent unencrypted. So no, they are not encrypted by default unless you have an encrypted solution in place. You can still use end-to-end encryption on your regular email account through add-ons such as Mailvelope. We will actually speak about Mailvelope in an upcoming webinar. I will still share the link to the Mailvelope extension for your browser, so you can add a layer of encryption to your emails, but usually it's not enabled by default, and it's not even an option on most mainstream email services. And to answer your second question, what is a specific indicator that tells us that an email is a phishing attack? Well, sometimes they ask you to perform certain activity, to open a file, you click on certain link, and if you watch closely, the sender address won't match the name. For instance, you might be getting, for instance, an email saying that your Apple ID has been locked out or that your bank account has been restricted because there were some suspicious transactions. And the email will say, if you want to have your bank account re-enabled or your Apple ID reactivated, click here. And then you're taken to another website where you have to put in your username and password, or they tell you that you have to download this or that file, or that you have to call certain number. If you have an email that's trying to push you to do something where you might reveal information about yourself or your account, just be vigilant. And I think that's a pretty strong indicator. I would love to share a new kind of attack that it's maybe not so common nowadays, but this kind of attacks started in 2019. A CEO, the assistant of a CEO received a call that was coming from the CEO himself, and the voice was his, apparently. And this lady received instructions to transfer money to random account. Keep in mind, this was a phone call that the assistant received from the CEO, and the voice was his voice, apparently. Well, hackers used artificial intelligence algorithms to mimic the voice of this company's CEO to try to fool the system into transferring money. This attack occurred in 2019, and similar attacks occurred in Dubai in 2020. So this is just starting to take place. So maybe in the future you might get a phone call from someone you know. The voice might sound genuine, but maybe it's not the real person behind the phone call. So just make sure to double check via an instant message or just a phone call or a message on Facebook or WhatsApp or Signal before you do anything that can compromise the information or financial resources. Yep. We still have time for some additional questions, or maybe if Luis or Hardelis have something to share, we are all ears. I'm seeing some messages. Oh, the tools. Yeah, sure. I have pasted the links to the tools I mentioned right now. They are on the chat. So first I shared the online malware scanner, then 2 proposed VPN service providers. Then I shared the addresses of encrypted cloud solutions, and then file and email encryption tools for Windows and Macintosh. Okay, I'm reading through the chat messages. Just if you have
a question for you, Sebastian.
Sure. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, why don't you explain the situation if the email provider the email provider is offering us end-to-end encryption. So the email is traveling the internet in an encrypted way, but once the message is reach the browser, for the message to be read, it needs to be unencrypted. So what happens when a message that is traveling encrypted and then it is decrypted at the browser or the application? If this message is going to be remain unencrypted, or it needs additional protection?
Well, when an encrypted email gets to the recipient, the recipient has to have the keys to the encryption to be able to open the email. So this is done through entering a password, or maybe using like a file that has the encryption to the message. So you have, of course, the decryption process only occurs when the real owner of the recipient of the email puts in his credentials and or the encryption key to open the message. Only at that time the message is decrypted. And if it don't say decrypted or not, it depends on of what stage you are referring to. The email will still be encrypted when it leaves on the mailbox of the recipient. The email will only exist on an encrypted state when it's open by the recipient. And usually when you have encryption systems, the emails will only be on encrypted state for a short period of time, or at least until you close your browser session. Yep. Okay, let's see. Yep, we still have 5 minutes. I'm not okay. We have a participant sharing an experience. I'm going to read aloud. It says, in 2019, an email I received pretended to have accepted a very position for me in a reputed company in Dubai and needed me to quickly mention details. It was a spear-phishing attack. What helped me was a reverse image search and a little research through Google to find out that company, whether it really existed or not. Finally, I got it, that it was a hoax. Yes, this actually somewhat happened to me as well. I received a message from a recruiter based in India. He was offering me a position, and he wanted me to send my resume right on LinkedIn. So he didn't give me any email address. So his name was there, his photo was there. When I did a reverse image search on his photograph, the photo was like from 2015, and I don't know, it seemed unusual to me. And his profile on Facebook was like not so related to what he said he had been doing during the recent years. So I don't know, maybe someone was just trying to get information from me with an open position offer. So watch out, because sometimes attackers will try to use the money factor to try to lure you into hoaxes, offering you a job or saying that you have been accepted for a position, or maybe offering financial help for your media organization or nonprofit. So watch out. And thank you a lot for sharing your experience with us. We have 3 minutes. Listen, Luis, I don't know if you want to wrap up the call.
Thank you, Jorge Sebastian, for your time.